There's another chance.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
And someone said, you know, there's going to be another opening. I thought, where? Who?
But not until January.
No, I've got the application. Because I want to also get back on the Park and Tree Advisory Committee, and if I could get on City Council, I can keep my place. as
Oh,
the
yeah.
mayor, so-
That's a great thing.
So-
Evening, Nick.
Sure. How are you?
Good. Norma.
Good evening, Mayor.
You too.
I'm alive and fairly well.
Good.
Turn my phone on.
Still breathing.
Will you remind you? Hey, are you on?
Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Good evening. How are you?
I am well.
Very good.
Do you have short timers?
By short time?
You're almost out.
The jacket's staying on tonight.
Long time.
It's not that hard, it's just
Oh, you left.
Almost done.
How are you?
Not because he was unelected.
bad. I have an appointment next,
Sorry, because I'm walking
next
your
week
area.
for my cancer doctor and my infusion. So it's every 3 weeks until at least March.
Yeah. Mostly
A little bit of a rash so far.
I'm sorry, you on?
Yeah. It worked out.
Just immunotherapy. Nothing else would do.
How are you feeling?
Yeah. I hear you.
I had a little break in there too. Not bad.
Very good.
So far. Thank you. Because I had my vaccine. So otherwise it could have been.
Good, I'll put it on my fridge. Hopefully it'll be a in-your-face reminder if I'm around, yeah. That's how that usually works.
Before I learned how to do red flags on emails, I was so unproductive. Now I depend on that.
Oh, that's funny.
So, seriously.
I can red flag mine and still lose them. Yeah, I still, yeah.
I'm good, and you?
But I just,
Good.
See my husband. Thought it was supposed to, but I went in there. To see.
Maybe it just hasn't been
It
out in
comes
the light
in, it
enough.
comes in the black.
Perfect, thank you. Looks great.
Yeah, I had to look through my scarves to see if I had. Pick a lot. I wasn't sure.
Sorry, I feel like I sent you guys a million emails this week, so everybody's very hurt. I take some for that, because no, just in general, sorry, I didn't blank.
Oh, no.
Just in general, not much, I'm reading about people, one of my friends said it was really good, so I've never read it before, I like it so far. Yeah, how are you?
I hope my son did that. Yes. My son lives in East
Yes.
It's helpful.
You know, I didn't even notice it was an hour off.
Gotcha.
So he bought me chocolate.
That's funny.
I'm a kid of the 80s, and I immediately thought of Public Enemy with Flavor Flav and
I
the
thought,
Big
is
Club.
she using it as a timer and wants to move it next to her so she can see the hands? That's where my head was, yeah.
That's a new game.
This is Brent.
Hi.
I'm just saying. I'm gonna have to think on this. There has to be a new
Thank you so
game.
much.
There has to be one in place. Otherwise, what do we do?
Oh,
Yes, I have one more for you over here. Sorry.
I could come at 11.
Quite a few people.
I have the executive.
So,
Maybe the special banquet is the same day as this, but it doesn't start till.
Okay,
but
so
Hi, how are you?
this is the first one. This is the second. Okay, so we're gonna sit right here.
Have things going on.
Has it ever been that thick before? Has it ever been that thick before?
I don't know. I don't print them out. Yes, we've had a bigger one, I think, one time.
Wow, impressive.
Was that you?
Nope. Turn it off. Okay, let's get that up here.
If you can fill that in, just put whatever streets correct.
Whose is it?
Tanya's.
Okay, I need
She's one of the.
Okay.
Good evening, and welcome to the Creswell City Council meeting for November 12, 2024. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome tonight to our two meetings. We actually have two meetings tonight. We begin with a joint meeting of the Creswell City Council and the Contract Review Board. So the City Council comprises the Contract Review Board, and every year we have a joint meeting. And so tonight is that meeting, and I'm going to turn this over to Manager Amber.
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize that Jim is not here, could not be here tonight. This item before you does basically four things. It changes the small procurement direct award threshold for goods and services and public improvement contracts from $10,000 to $25,000. And intermediate procurement thresholds from $150,000 to $250,000. It expands the preference for service-disabled veterans to all veterans. It gives an allowance, but not a requirement, to grant 5% preference for nonprofit business that benefits society or the environment. And it makes demolition contracts and those for the removal of hazardous waste public work subject to prevailing wage laws. We ask you tonight that you sit as the board and adopt this resolution amending our public contracting rules.
So just a quick clarification, on number 3, did you say that the preference is for nonprofit or for-profit?
For-profit that benefits society.
Okay, thank you. All right, council, we looked at this at our work session, so I want to open it up to the floor for any discussion. Questions initially for Manager Amber about the resolution? We had a pretty robust discussion of it and asked questions at that time. Any other questions? Any questions at all? Okay, council, then I am entertaining a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-25, amending public contracting rules for the city of Creswell on behalf of the city of Creswell and on behalf of the city's local contract review board. Councilor Smith, Councilor Osborne.
Let's see if I can do this now today. Oh, maybe. Okay. I move that the city council adopt resolution number 2024-25, amending public contracting rules for the city of Creswell on behalf of the city of Creswell and on behalf of the city local contract review board.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second that.
Councillor Kent?
I would like to second that motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Councillor, is there any further discussion? Council will approve to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. And with that, we adjourn the City Council Contract Review Board. Welcome to the Creswell City Council meeting. Our agenda always begins with a public forum. So we have tonight several speakers who signed up to speak on ordinance 557 when we get to that item. And we have one speaker who would like to speak during the public forum. So I'm going to invite Shirley Bonebreak to come and speak to us.
Can I do it from here?
You need to come up to the podium and then it'll be recorded as well.
Well, the reason I'm here tonight is because I complained to City Hall about the cars parked in front of my house, and they told me it was a public street, anyone could park there. Well, I'd like that proven to me because there are 2 cars parked there that have been there since the 12th of April. They have not moved. I've not even seen anyone come close to them. And I know she told me you have an ordinance that cars cannot be parked longer than 30 days, but that's well over the 30 days. So how do you enforce this ordinance?
You have anything else you'd like to add, Shirley?
No, I'd just like to know, because when my daughter comes from Spokane, I take my car out of the garage, park in a place that a person has left for work, so that when she comes, I can put my car back in the garage and she can park there.
Then I'm going to direct our city manager, Michelle Amberg, if you can make sure this is followed up on. And Shirley's address is 47 Almond Way. Caitlin will also have this. Do you have a copy of this, Caitlin, already? Okay, I'll pass it down to you. 47 Almond Way, and your concern is that the cars have been there since sometime in April.
Yes.
Okay, so Manager Amberg, if you can make sure that's followed up on, and then we get back to Shirley about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we move on now to the mayor's report. First of all, I want to announce that we have had an election. The results are not certified yet. They are certified by Lane County on
December 2nd.
December 2nd. So we have preliminary results. But I would like to announce that preliminarily, we have a new mayor-to-be. Congratulations to Nick Smith. And if any of these folks are in the room tonight, please stand. Clark Kent. Mark Creamer. And Joan Morris. All right, those are the preliminary, and we will have the result December 2nd, and then they will be announced formally at the council meeting in December. We also have vacancies, and I want to encourage you once again that we are looking for folks who will serve the city of Creswell in the new year. We have 1 vacancy on the Planning Commission. We have 1 vacancy on the Airport Commission. We have 2 vacancies on the Budget Committee. We have 3 vacancies on the Water Rate Advisory Board. So if you are interested or you know someone that you think they'd be great serving, please encourage them to either go online or come in to City Hall, pick up an application, talk to any one of the counselors about that. Our city is run by volunteers in so many, many ways. So I hope we'll have people who will step forward and serve next year. The third thing I want to mention is a huge win for the city of Creswell that most of you don't know about yet, counselors. Today, Manager Amber and Cliff and our consultant from West Yost, and some of you remember Maddie Phillips, who was our city planner, and we attended the Lane County Board of Commissioners meeting at 9:30. We presented our case for regional connection to wastewater management system, and it was a wonderful response from all 5 counselors. One by one, they went down the road, and every commissioner spoke in support of our desire to hook up regionally. Every single one. And the Chair Traeger at the end said, well, it appears that we have complete consensus on this. This is not the decision making, this was an information session. But then they charged the staff to put together all the paperwork and to have it back before the end of the year. And based on how it went today, I walked away thinking, wow, we're going to get the first hurdle. This is the first hurdle. And so then when I came home, I called Mary Camarada, who's with the DEQ, talked to her. She was very excited about our results. We still have a ways to go because both the City of Eugene City Council and the Springfield City Council will have to sign on eventually. But the first step was for Lane County to say, yes, we will work City of Creswell into our current amendment to bring the line down to Goshen. So it was huge, and I went away thinking, yay, and I wanted to share that with all of you council members. Many of you will be carrying the load next year. There's still work to be done, but we've jumped over a large hurdle today. So, yay, good news. Okay, next we move on to correspondence. Council members, do you have any comments on any items in the correspondence that we received? Councilor Kent.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we could get the route correction on the meeting ASAP for a future meeting, so we could get that corrected. Thank you.
Any other discussion on that particular item?
Correspondence.
Correspondence. So I'd like to throw out a thought on that. If we can make direct contact with, first thing I want to throw out is I want to say to Debbie, thank you for doing all this work. When we worked on this earlier in the year, our resource was both the application submitted by members of the Historical Society and also the book, Blue Valley. And when you read through the Blue Valley, it's an E every time. Because we had long discussions about this, if you remember. And then there's a final line on page 89 that says, note, sometime over the years the spelling changed to Robinette. So I think the council is going to have a discussion about this, but it would be nice to make direct contact with Jim Robinette. So Debbie, if you can, Ron, if you could email perhaps to Manager Amberg and Caitlin and to the council members, if you have a phone number or email address, either one for Ron, so that we could make direct contact with him, I think it would be good for the council to discuss this perhaps at the November work session and get some information before then so that we can decide if we want to make a change, and then that would need to come back for a formal vote. So that would be my thought. Council, do you think that's a good plan? So if you can get some information on Ron, we'll reach out, we'll make a contact with him. And then, Manager Amber, let's put this on the November work session for discussion. Okay? Thank you. Any other comments on correspondence? Councilor Castilla.
Yes, well, Mr. Jim Orgloso is not here tonight, but I just wanted to say thanks for his time in serving the Airport Commission, and I'm going to miss him.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, then we move on to the consent calendar. In the consent calendar, all items are considered as routine and are enacted by a single motion. If there's anything that council members wish to pull for the purpose of correction, we will do that now. Is there anything that needs to be pulled from the consent calendar for correction? I had one question, Caitlin. It says draft on all of these. Is that normal until they're approved by the council?
Yes.
They're draft.
Anything that I put like on the website and packet all has, oh, sorry. Yes, correct. All of them have the draft noted on them until there's the actual signature on file. So in case there are any changes or anything that need to be made, that's easy to do.
Very good, thank you. Okay, seeing no corrections, I am entertaining a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented. Councilor Castillo,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilor Kent.
I second, I second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion? Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We move to the administrative report, Manager Amberg.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item is the October bills. I will do my best to try and recall what they are if you have any questions about them.
Councilor Holt.
I have a few here. There's a rather large payment to City of Cottage Grove for, it looks like 22,000 and some. Is that, what is that for?
We have an agreement with Cottage Grove to assist us with our building inspection program. We don't have a building inspection official, so we use their official, and yeah.
Okay. And then, I don't know how much is this for? Antijotic or something like that? What is that? It's a $21,108 payout on the 17th.
Page
October.
1024, if that helps you any.
Oh, Integotech?
Yes.
Integrotech.
Huh?
Integrotech. For
Oh,
cameras.
oh, it doesn't have the R in it. Okay.
Yeah, it's for
Okay,
security cameras at the airport.
thank you. And then, what do we give Creswell First money for? Just as a reminder, I don't recall.
Each year, the city budgets a certain amount of money to be given to Creswell First, and then they create grants from it. There's a process, and we've developed what we expect them to do with the money and how they are to make the grants and the outline of, the box that they have to fit in. So that's what it is each year, but it is approved by the budget committee prior to going to Creswell First.
Thank you, I could not recall. And then, one other that I had on here, Cascade Columbia Distribution for 13,300 and some. It's on the 30th.
Right.
It looks like Cliff knows.
Live mine now.
Those are chemicals for our wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, thank you.
So for those who didn't hear, those are chemicals for our wastewater treatment plant.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff.
Okay, any other questions on the bills? Councilor Castillo.
Yes, I have one. It's more, not so much as a bill, but typically when we get these reports, there's usually a few like refunds at the end of the report. I just noticed that this time around, there's like 14 of them. Did something happen? It just seems like there's a lot this time.
Well, some of these are for the use of the community center. They pay a deposit and we pay them back. Some of them are because people are leaving and they have some of it is balances that are left on their bill. The post office is the post office. Yeah, so those are typically what these are for.
Okay, thank you, Manager.
Councilor Clark.
So a question that you've answered for me before, but I just want to make sure that I've asked the question as we see it on the bill. So there's a $303,000 payment for Lane County Sheriff's Office, and that is our quarterly payment that we have?
That's correct.
Excellent, okay. And so for individuals who, and I'm asking this question because I heard a lot about the water bill over the course of the last couple of weeks. And so we pay for our public safety through the public safety fee, which goes onto our, it reads as the water bill, but there's some other fees that go into that, right?
It's a combination. It's property tax and that particular fee.
Excellent, thank you.
And we call it the utility bill because it's water, sewer, public safety, transportation utility fee, and then donations to H2O. So that's one of the things I've tried to explain through the years when they say, man, I pay this much for water. I say, well, let's talk about your bill. You might pay more for sewer than water. But that's part of our job as councilors and mayor-to-be is helping people explain their bills. Okay, other questions on the bills?
Okay, thank you. The next item is the Lane County Sheriff's call for service reports, and I see, I want to say Captain Speldridge.
No.
Sergeant Speldridge is here to answer your questions.
I was about to run. Is it on? I think it's on now.
No.
No?
Off.
How about now? No?
It didn't change.
I'll talk loud.
Okay.
Okay, so if you look at this month's calls for service versus last month's calls for service, you'll see that it went up by about 16 calls is what the actual number was. And when I was looking at that, trying to figure out why, we had a really high number of just civil service for whatever reason. And so what that is anytime somebody files civil papers, it gets turned out to deputies to go serve those papers. And so that's what that is. Other than that, if you look at the calls, they're pretty similar to last month. This month was pretty similar. The only things that really stood out is we arrested somebody on some warrants, and during that arrest, it happened after hours. There's a main office sergeant down here in that arrest, and the custody assaulted the sergeant. He's fine. It was a minor injury type thing, but it's just kind of a reminder that sometimes things go a little sideways. And so he was totally fine that night, but that is something that did happen down here in Creswell. We did have a couple Measure 11 crimes. One of them was a historical sex case where somebody finally felt comfortable coming forward with something that happened several years ago. As you guys know, that's pretty common where a lot of these Measure 11s you see are those historical cases. Somebody finally, has the courage to come forward with something. And the other one, the best way I could sum that up is it was a juvenile problem where there were some kids that did some weird stuff and it rose to the level of a Measure 11 crime. That's probably the best way I can put it. I'm happy to answer any other questions. I don't really have a whole lot to talk about though, which is good. So.
All right, questions for Sergeant Speldridge? Councilor Clark?
I was being pointed at, so I think I know the question. I think you all know the question I'm going to ask.
I
Has
thought
there
it was
been
your
any
turn to
change
say.
in our unhoused population over the course of the last month?
Yeah. There's been a couple people that have kind of found their way down here, and I've contacted some of them, and at least one of them says that they plan to stay down here. So I would say our number is still in that bracket of 5 to 10. It kind of fluctuates as people pass through, but at least so far it seems like maybe we added one that will be a long term.
Councilor Clark? Councilor Holt?
I'm just back on the one that you said we added. Is that a person that was passing through that decided to stay, or is that a long-time resident?
They're not from here. They're from
Thank you.
Eugene.
That's really all I wanted to know. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Councilor Castillo.
One thing I noticed from last month compared to this month is we have goose eggs for speeding citations. Both are we the speeding violators are problem solved here in Creswell?
Well, I don't know if we can say that, but in the time that at least I personally spent trying speed enforcement, there hasn't been any real violators. That's outside of the norm. I mean, you know, I could easily go out and write speeding tickets for 1 or 2 miles an hour over the speed limit, but that's not really within the spirit of the law, in my opinion. And so, but we haven't had, you know, the super high speeds, at least when I have been out looking. I think we talked about this a couple months ago, how sometimes it's a matter of being in the right place at the right time, and that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Osborne.
I wanted to ask if there's been problems from the homeless, ticketed or arrests or problems that have come up that are listed as part of these.
Yeah, nothing egregious other than, you know, I mentioned the sergeant that got assaulted. That was by a homeless person.
Oh, I didn't catch that
Yeah,
part.
I didn't give that piece of information before, but
Okay.
that was a thing.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, and it's somebody that's historically been around Creswell, so it's somebody we've contacted numerous times. Just for whatever reason, that time that was it. So the other things have just been kind of the same things that we've been dealing with. I will say that I'm pleased to say that we have not had as many consistent violations of the 72-hour rule that we've talked about in the last couple of weeks, which is great. I'm pleased to say that, but I don't have anything like major other than the one incident.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, the next is the city attorney's report. Be happy to try to answer any questions you might have on that. Okay, the next one is the code enforcement report. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Councilor Castillo.
Not a question, just a comment. Just kudos to Chelsea for enforcing the codes that we have in place.
Thank you. Okay, if there aren't any others, we'll move on to the building permit recap report. If there are no questions about that, that concludes the administrative reports.
Okay, so we move over to the council action items. And the first one looks like it's Jim Piper or Shelley Humble, and Jim is absent. So we'll turn this to Shelley.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Before you tonight is asking for acceptance of the FAA Airport Improvement AIP grant that we've been working towards. We published the request for proposals for the master plan that is slated to happen for the next 18 months. So the way the process works with the FAA, we put it out for proposal, we open the bids, we send the documentation that we receive to the FAA for concurrence. Once we get the concurrence, they will offer our grant in, it's $450,000 for the master plan and AGIS survey. Then we've already applied for and received a core grant, which will pay $45,000, which is the match for the FAA. And then the city is responsible for $5,000. And the master plan will look for the next 20 years at what the airport preview is, where we think growth will happen, what kind of hangar buildings we need. It goes through a whole process. They like to see the master plans updated every 20 years, and the last one we did was in 2007. The one company that did apply was Century West, who is the same company that did our original in 2007. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Manager Humble? We also had a good discussion of this at our last work session. Okay, well, I think we're good then.
Thank you.
All right, council, discussion of this item?
I think discussion comes after we make a motion, right?
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Castilla.
I move that the city council authorize city manager Michelle Amberg to complete the FFA AIP grant paperwork associated with the funding and completion of the master plan update and AGIS survey project.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Councilor Holt seconds the motion. Now, is there any discussion?
Wanted to put it in the order.
Councilor Clark.
I just want to say kudos again to the work of the city staff in terms of tracking down grants and procuring grant dollars. And you all are doing amazing work bringing money and services to the city of Creswell. So thank you.
Any other discussion or comments? If not, we will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. So tonight we have a couple of guests here from Cottage Grove, so I'm going to ask the council whether you consider swapping B and C and having the resolution that has to do with the enterprise zone with Faith Stewart, who is with the city of Cottage Grove, having him make his presentation first, and then we move to ordinance 557. So council, would you be okay with doing that? Okay, so we will swap B and C, and we will call Faye up first. Thank you, Faye, for coming tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to be here. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Cottage Grove, and I'm here this evening in my capacity as the Enterprise Zone Manager for the Cottage Grove, Creswell, and South Lane County Enterprise Zone. I'm not 100% sure, this is the first time I think I've came to the council to speak about the Enterprise Zone, so I thought maybe I'd take a second if council would like to speak a little bit about Enterprise Zone if you'd like. So with that, the City of Cottage Grove back in 2002 partnered with Lane County and established the South Lane Cottage Grove Enterprise Zone. And it operates, Enterprise Zones is a economic development and job creation tool that the state legislature has adopted and is managed by Business Oregon. Not 100% sure, I think there's 59 enterprise zones in the state of Oregon, and it is a statute that is sunsets every 10 years, and so every 10 years since the mid-'80s, it's been reauthorized by the state legislature. And so in 2002, Cottage Grove established the enterprise zone, and then in 2012, partnered with Creswell and established the Cottage Grove Creswell South Lane Enterprise Zone. That time, Creswell was working with Lane County and other partners to try to figure out how to support Bald Knob when Bald Knob had its tragic fire that really pretty much curtailed that business, and felt that the enterprise zone could be a tool that would help Bald Knob or somebody in the future redevelop that site. And so that's when the Cottage Grove, Creswell, and South Lane County Enterprise Zone was created. And then in 2002, late 2002, our authorization was coming due, so we reapplied and was reauthorized for an additional 10 years. And then in 2023, the state legislature, in renewing the enterprise zone statute, they tweaked the enterprise zone statute just a little bit for companies that are applying for years 4 and 5 of property tax abatement or exemption. They are required to pay a school benefit fee to the impacted school district in the area where that enterprise zone is operating. So there was a change to the legislation. But essentially in an enterprise zone, a company that comes in, there's 2 ways to benefit. You can establish a new company, a new business, and invest in infrastructure and equipment, and those new investments can qualify for the exemption. So they would apply to our enterprise zone, and if they met the criteria, so the standard criteria is a 3-year enterprise zone is pretty basic. We follow pretty much the state statute, and essentially if you're a brand new company in the area and you don't have any workforce, your investment, if you create 1 job, can qualify you for that exemption, and then as long as it's a qualifying expense. And generally the department, Lane County's Assessment and Taxation Department, will review the qualifications for exemption and determine whether or not the investment qualifies. And if you're a large company, the Department of Revenue, State Revenue, may make that determination. And for the 3-year exemption, if you essentially are brand new, it's pretty straightforward. There's no request by the partners in the enterprise zone to make any decisions. It's pretty much a standard process that we go through. In fact, in Creswell, I believe it was a year ago, we worked with a company, it's a Terry, I believe, America Inc., and they operate here in Creswell, and they produce wildland fire apparatuses that help sell those to wildfire companies. And so that's, I believe, the first applicant that's inside the city limits of Creswell that's been approved. Cottage Grove's had several applications come through. Most of them are, like I said, the 3-year exemption. What we have this evening is we have a company that's applied, Weyerhaeuser, that's made application. They are an existing company, and I'll let Mr. Saban, the mill manager, speak here in a few minutes to talk about what they're planning to do at their facility and maybe give a little history of Weyerhaeuser. But Weyerhaeuser is proposing a substantial $120 million investment in their facility down south of Cottage Grove. This facility is outside the city limits of Cottage Grove, so it really impacts Lane County and the school district and the fire district is what would be impacted through the exemption process for property tax. There's a couple of things unique about this application. Number one, they are not proposing any job creation. And under the statute, under 28, or Oregon 285C.155 and 285C.200, there is provisions that allow for companies to request a waiver of the job creation requirement. In this instance, if Weyerhaeuser was to meet the criteria, they would need to increase their employment at the facility from 225 by 10%, so another 200 or another 22 jobs to qualify without needing a waiver. In this instance, they're not able to, they're not proposing any job creation in this investment. And so the provision that allows for them to seek the waiver is if there's two paths forward on that. If they're if they're investing over $25 million in the improvement, that allows the three jurisdictions, Cottage Grove, Creswell, and Lane County, to consider the waiver. Each body will have to approve the resolution before you for it to be successful. And in this, it's a pretty slam dunk. It's a $120 million investment, so quite a bit higher than the 25. The other avenue that could have been used is if they were to increase production. It's my understanding that this improvement would increase the production by, I believe, 6,000 board feet an hour. But if I misspoke, Mr. Savon can correct that. But it's a process where we would have to track the production and ensure that that increase was actually being met. So the first option is the simplest way that meets the criteria. So before the council this evening will be, number one, the waiver request. And then the second item that's included in the resolution is to approve years 4 and 5 of the extending the property tax abatement for 2 additional years. They are making that request, and that takes a simple, essentially exemption agreement between all three bodies and Weyerhaeuser to approve that request. Because they're not creating any new jobs under this proposal, the criteria of meeting 150% of the total compensation to the new employees is not mandated to be required. But if in chance that they do make this investment and a year later determine that because of what they've invested in, created, that they needed to hire a new or create a new position for it, then that position would be required to meet the 150% of Lane County's average wage. And so at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Savon to come up and just speak about, he's got some prepared comments about Weyerhaeuser, and we can answer questions about the application.
Thank you, Faith. Mayor Stram and members of the council, I am Brent Chavon, the mill manager of Cottage Grove Sawmill, appearing before you to discuss our application for both an extended enterprise zone tax abatement and a waiver of employment requirements. We very much appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about our mill upgrades this evening. As background, Weyerhaeuser has been operating in Oregon since 1904, and we currently have over 600 employees in Lane County. Weyerhaeuser Cottage Grove Mill has a long history in the Cottage Grove community. We've been in operation since 1957 and currently employ 225 people in well-paying family wage jobs. As you may know, the mill makes green Douglas fir dimensional lumber, which is primarily sold to wholesale distributors and home centers. The mill is undergoing a series of upgrades that will allow us to increase capacity of our production volume. The modernization will decrease operational expenses, improving our competitive position and allowing us to operate far in the future. The updates will also improve safety for our workers on the upgraded lines. Although not part of this application, you should know that the project's initial phase has helped us prepare to trim, sort, and stack the expected capacities. This phase represented an investment of $36 million, which was completed in February of 2024. The current phase of the mill modernization began in late August. In this phase, we are installing a log processing line at the cost of around $60 million. The new log processing line will tie into the mill's existing primary breakdown. Once the new log processing line is operational, the existing log processing line will be demolished and replaced with a new primary line. The final phase of the mill modernization will be upgrading the primary breakdown and the residuals line at a cost of another $60 million. This phase will be constructed offline and connect between the new trim sort stack line and the new log processing line. This project includes the costs of the current and next phase projects. So the project before you is the two second and third phases. The Cottage Grove mill competes with other Weyerhaeuser mills for resources needed for upgrades, and we have made significant efforts to secure approval for these investments. A key consideration for Weyerhaeuser when allocating resources is a mill's long-standing presence in a community that it operates. In our case, our long history in the area and our employees' strong ties to the community were significant factors in the decision to fund the upgrades. As is the case with many businesses in the area, hiring workers for mill continues to be very challenging. The local labor market is limited, and there aren't many people with the specialized skills that we require. These hiring difficulties make our planned upgrades even more crucial. By incorporating advanced automation and improving our processes, we can maintain high productivity and quality with our current workforce. We hope that this will ensure the mill's continued success and stability, even if the current workforce shortages persist. Additionally, the investment in updated technologies improves the safety of our people by taking hands out of the operating processes. Moreover, the urgency in supporting this mill through the extended tax abatement is heightened by the recent closures of several other mills in our state over the past year. These closures have significantly impacted local economies. By approving our request for the extended tax abatements, you will help us to counteract these negative effects, providing stable, well-paying jobs and contributing to the economic resilience of this region. We are deeply committed to this community. Our employees are your neighbors, and their well-being is directly tied to the ongoing stability of our mill and the economic health of the region. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, would you please give us your name again? I didn't catch it.
My name is Brent Chabon, and it's spelled Charlie Zulu Alpha Bravo Alpha November.
Thank you very much, Brent.
So there was another piece that I'd like to just highlight that's it's been negotiated. It's not something that's required for the 4 to 5 year extension, but Weyerhaeuser has graciously made the commitment that if this application is approved by all three bodies and the extension is approved, that they will establish a community benefit fund in the Cottage Grove Community Foundation with 10% of the property tax abatement for the first 5 years to go into that fund to benefit the South Lane School District and the Cottage Grove Community Hospital. So they have made that commitment to give back over and above what they normally do. I would also point out that in years 4 and 5, another piece of the criteria of the extension of 4 and 5 is to have a school benefit fund percentage put in. So Weyerhaeuser will be paying directly to the South Lane School District 15% of their property tax abatement that the school district receives. So they will be also contributing during those years 4 and 5, 25% of their property tax abatement will be going back to the school district or into this community benefit fund. So with that, I hope I've covered a lot of bases. I'm more than happy to answer any questions or try to bring any clarity to a process maybe that can be kind of confusing. So.
Okay, so we're going to open it up for questions to Faye or to Brent. Councilor Holt.
I heard a lot about the benefit to Cottage Grove. What is the benefit to Creswell?
So Mayor Stram and Councilor Holt, the benefit to Creswell is I'm guessing, maybe I should look at Brent, but I'm pretty sure there's probably employees that work for Weyerhaeuser that actually live in Creswell. So the benefit will be for them. The other benefit is that community benefit fund is, I'm sure that Creswell and the residents receive care from the Cottage Grove Hospital, so being able to support the hospital, taking a regional approach to help out with is a second piece. And then the third is really being able to support the enterprise zone as a partnership. It's intended to lift all boats and try to increase employment and job creation. And our partnership, in creating this and operating this enterprise zone is a benefit to Creswell. I've had in the 7 years that I've been the enterprise zone manager, multiple outreaches by companies that are interested in investing in Creswell, and some of them didn't move forward because of business decisions, but we do have a tool here that people are looking at to try to make their decisions to make investments in Creswell.
Okay. Councilor Smith?
Do you have an actual dollar figure on the tax abatement? First 3 years and then 4 and 5, or is it all going to be unified?
Yeah, I'll give you an estimate that was provided to me by the Lane County Assessment Department. I mind you that it's a high-level estimate because until they actually, in this case, the Department of Revenue actually determines what property is eligible, that if the full $60 million was eligible for in years 1 through 3, that would equate to approximately $630,000 worth of property tax abatement for those first 3 years. And then when the second wave of investment, the additional $60 million, bringing it to 120, then they're looking at a total tax savings of those 2 years of approximately $1.2 million.
Then 10% of the 63 and the 1.2 will be donated to the community fund, and 15 and the 4 and 5 of the 1.2 will be donated to the school fund, Southline.
That's correct. So hypothetically, $63,000 a year for the first 3 years would go into the fund, and then a little over approximately $120,000 for the remaining 2 years.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I would just add, back to Councilor Holt, this is really important for the city of Cottage Grove, and I'll share with you several different reasons. The reason Creswell is eligible to be a part of the enterprise zone is because Cottage Grove's median income is substantially lower. In fact, it's my understanding our median income in Cottage Grove is $39,000. And Creswell's median income is close to $70,000. So there's a substantial difference. If Creswell was to apply for this enterprise zone, they wouldn't meet the criteria because the average income level for Creswell residents is too high. It doesn't qualify. So it's important that we have these 225 jobs that are available to our city and surrounding area because of that fact. The second piece, that as the Public Works and involved in community development, Cottage Grove just went through an economics opportunity analysis, and to look at, we understand that we have a lack of industrial land and commercial land, but because we have geographical constraints, we don't really have any place to grow. So supporting the businesses that we currently have to maintain the jobs that we have is crucial for us to provide living wages in the Cottage Grove area.
To refer back to the 6 million, or you said 6,000 board feet an hour, the new mill will be able to produce. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that is it.
My focus was with that 6,000, is that wood going to stay here locally, or is that getting shipped out?
We primarily export out of the area, out of South Lane County, the majority of our wood. Being that it is green Doug fir, while it's nice to build with, it does also begin to mold if it doesn't dry out first. So our primary customers, I apologize, Mayor Strand, Councilor Smith, our primary customers are in California, Nevada, and Arizona. Most of it is shipped out of the area, the vast majority.
Thank you.
Other councilors? Councilor Castillo?
How was it that the Cottage Grove Community Medical Center was selected to receive these tax dollars?
Mayor Stram, Councilor Castillo, what's near and dear to my heart are two items, and we want the Cottage Grove Hospital to continue to be in the community. And primarily for us, as an employer, we want the emergency services to be available should someone ever be injured and not be able to make it the 30 minutes down the highway to Eugene or Springfield. The hospital continues to be vibrant, but it requires a financial income in order for it to continue to grow and meet new services. And we see that as being one method of doing so. The other item that is also near and dear to my heart are our youth. Without us looking after the education and growth and development of our young people, our communities are going to suffer. And we want to ensure that South Lane District has a funding source that is available to them for as long as they are in existence.
Well, I appreciate both of your presentations very much. When I pastored a church in Creswell, we had so many people in our church and in churches throughout Creswell who spent their entire working career at Weyerhaeuser or Cottage Grove. And always the concern was, which many of us Oregonians have felt for years, and you referenced it tonight, was what's going to happen to the lumber industry in Oregon, to the logging, which historically has been so important. So for me to hear that Weyerhaeuser is investing $120 million to keep it competitive in the future, I like that word future, safety for workers. Mills have accidents, and sometimes they can be very serious. So to hear that was very, very important. Just to hear that Weyerhaeuser is committed to staying in our area, because as you noted, Faye, it produces jobs throughout the whole region. And today when we were presenting before Lane County, the pitch I made to Lane County was we're all connected. And when it comes to wastewater, what happens in Creswell doesn't stay in Creswell. It literally ends up going north into the Willamette River. So many things we do impact everyone around us. So the trickle down of jobs. If people have jobs in Creswell that work at Weyerhaeuser and make living wage jobs, then they're able to stay in Creswell and drive 10 miles south. So it has huge benefits, and I'm just a proponent of continuing that Oregon can be, to whatever level it can, committed to logging, to lumber, to production, to family wage jobs. And I think the enterprise zone does have a benefit to Creswell, as you pointed out. I was a part of those conversations a dozen years ago after Bald Knob. How can we create an enterprise zone in Creswell so that businesses can be encouraged to come here? So I think our partnership is of great value. Thank you both for presenting tonight.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions from the council? Councilor Holt.
My understanding, we've had the enterprise zone since, 2002, is that correct?
Mayor Stram, Councilor Hull, yes, Cottage Grove established it with Lane County in 2002. And it's my understanding, looking through historical records, in 2012, a new application was presented to Business Oregon, and that added Creswell into that.
In 12, okay. And am I correct to say that there hasn't been any new businesses added to Creswell specifically since this came into effect?
We actually did have one last year, Itiri America.
Oh, okay.
The company that's located, I believe, in the former Baldwin site in one of the units that produces wildland fire apparatuses.
Very well, thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So I'm entertaining a motion on Resolution 2024-26, granting an enterprise zone abatement and waiving statutory requirements. So, councilors, I'm entertaining a motion. This is right here. It's the resolution that has all the whereases, and on the back side has it be further resolved, and then it goes into a third page that has the signatures on it.
It's towards the bottom. He did it out of the order that it was in before.
We moved ordinance 557 after this. That's why it's out of order. Give a minute to make sure you all can find it. That's it right there.
So this is our
Yes.
script, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one good script.
Yep. Okay, Councilor Castilla.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution granting an enterprise zone abatement waiving statutory requirement to increase employment by 10% and approve agreement to extend tax abatement to 5 consecutive years and a total for capital investment by Weyerhaeuser and our company's Cottage Grove facility.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second from Councilor Smith. Any further discussion? Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Now we return to B, which is the amendment to city ordinance number 557. This is an ordinance number 563. So if the council moves to the place of voting on it tonight, a reminder, an ordinance must be read twice by title or complete if any councilor asks that it be read incomplete. And to be approved, it must be passed unanimously tonight, or it goes to a second meeting in December. So with that, Ross Williamson is not here tonight. Manager Amber, are you presenting this item? No? Okay. So I guess I will just open up the floor. You have ordinance number 563, an ordinance updating the Creswell Municipal Code relating to storage of vehicles and property on city streets. But before I go to there, we did have a number of speakers sign up who wish to speak specifically to this item tonight. So I'm just going to call them in the order I have them. The first speaker is Ed Gunderson. If you come up and give us your address and then present to us. And this is not limited to 3 minutes, but we would ask you to make your comments as concise as possible.
Ed Gunderson, 593 A Street, Creswell. I appreciate that the council is addressing Conestoga vehicle and RV parking in response to concerns of residents. The 3 bicycle towable Conestogas built with community donations for use in Creswell are intended to provide secure, dry shelter for formerly tent-dwelling residents and their possessions. Bill and I were concerned with the vulnerability of tent campers and their possessions, which often cluttered the pocket park. We also hoped it would be easier for Conestoga dwellers to comply with city codes if their shelters and belongings could be easily moved. To encourage code and compliance, an agreement was signed by each resident promising to follow city codes. Because of repeated non-compliance, one Conestoga has been removed from use and is no longer on the street. Timely moving of the Conestogas has been a recurring issue. To ease that issue for both code enforcement and the residents, I would suggest one moving day for all RVs, sleep vehicles, and Conestogas, no matter when they first park. This would greatly reduce monitoring by code enforcement and Bill or I, while making street cleaning more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Our next speaker is Christina Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start off with congratulations, Councilman Kent and Councilman Smith, for your upcoming victory. And I can't wait to see what you guys have to bring to Creswell in the next 4 years. With that being said, as you guys know, my name's Christina Allen. I'm one of the homeless that you guys are discussing about in the Creswell community. So I read your packet on that issue, and I actually agree with most of what you guys wrote in there. I really do. I do have a question. When you say that there's no open flame at all whatsoever allowed, does that mean we can't use our cook stove? Does that mean that we can't use our propane heater to keep ourselves warm? Or did I misunderstand that?
So I will need to refer that to Manager Amber or Sergeant Speldridge.
Those both qualify as open flame devices.
Okay, both of those do qualify as open flame devices.
Okay, so that would not be allowed then, correct? Okay, well, that sucks. All right, thank you, that's all I really wanted to know.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Tanya Hortlow. Did I get that correct? Is Tanya here?
Yeah, I am. Yes, Tanya Hortlow. I'd just rather not speak tonight.
You'd rather not speak?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Last speaker signed up is Bill Kent.
Mayor, councilors, my name is Bill Kent, and I live over on Cloverdale. And so, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to actually come and talk to you. It's a strong point that the city encourages people to come and just have a conversation. So I appreciate that. As you can see, what we did is bring some of the people that live in these Conestogas to kind of let you see, put a face to them. You know, they're not unknown people. And when you ask questions about the homeless in Creswell, I have to confess, I only know the homeless in Creswell that are residents of Creswell. There's people that drop through. There's people that come actually to visit, just like the people in houses come to visit. There's some of those too, but I really can't speak to them because I don't know them. But Ed spoke about the fact that to live in a Conestoga, we set up rules and regulations trying to make sure that city code was followed. And I mentioned this to Councilor Castilla at one of the Baptist church dinners on Wednesday night, and he said, well, I'd like to see a copy of that. So Ed printed off, can I approach? It's 2 pages per copy. If I could get you to just kind of grab 2 and pass them down. And give everybody a chance to see how we tried to organize the Conestogas. One, to keep people alive, because in our cold weather, you can see even Christina's got a cold right now because of the weather. So it's, I don't have to tell you, it's, you know, some of you know some people that have been homeless, and it's rough living on the street. So as part of this, and you know, you don't have to read the whole thing now, but part of it is we meet with anybody that's gonna live in a Conestoga, and we have them to agree to certain things, one of which is to comply with the city code as far as moving. And to ensure that, either Ed or I are riding around the town pretty much every day, visiting these Conestogas. I put a tracking device in each one, so I know exactly where they are, and I can see when they move or don't move. So it's been part of our mission to make sure that they were available for people that didn't have a better place to sleep. And so I feel strongly about what we're trying to do to help people's lives with the Conestogas, but at the same time, I hear your plea that Sergeant Speldridge and his crew are spending an inordinate amount of time trying to, if you remember the code enforcement officer said, yeah, we can leash dogs, but you can't herd cats. It's pretty much the same thing as trying to keep track of who's where, when, and have they moved or not. And so that's why Ed and I came up with the idea that would it be easier on the Sarge if they had to move every Sunday. And the reason we picked Sunday is it's the least traffic day, so it's the least encumbrance of people moving their vehicle around. And being once a week, when the crew comes on Monday, they know everybody should have moved. And I just thought it would simplify things, make the job easier. So that's about it. I'd like to recognize both of the women who are currently living in Conestogas, and one of them got brave enough to actually come here tonight, because you don't know how intimidating it is to stand up here when you guys are a team and you're the lone individual up here talking. So I just want to commend Tanya for having the guts to actually show up. And then Patty, of course, is a real benefit in the community of trying to get food and just a little bit of everything to the homeless population that we have. So the only other thing is, it was advised to me to get, there's a book out now, and amazingly, Amazon actually sells books. I know that's weird, but it's called Rural Solutions for Homelessness. So it wasn't designed for real big city problems. It was designed for small towns like Creswell, and it's written by people in Oregon. They went by and went to various cities and saw, well, what are the problems you're encountering? And they developed a kind of to-do list, you know, best practices, that whole thing. Well, I read it, thought it was interesting, and so what I'm going to do is just pass it. Anybody on the council that wants to take it home, read it, pass it on, it's available. Because once you read it, you know, you don't need to hold on to it. So anyway, once again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come in and address you tonight, and really appreciate it.
Bill, before you go, just a question for clarification.
Yes.
Who owns the Conestoga huts?
Good question. Ed and I own them. We built them, we own them. Part of the, if you look on, I don't know, page 2 or 3, it stipulates that we're the owners. If you don't comply with code, we can take them back. And as was announced, there's one already off the street because we found the occupant wasn't complying with code enough, and we repossessed it. So they are the personal property of Ed and I. We built them with local funds, but everybody signs that thing, recognize they're a guest in the Conestoga, And then not only are they a guest in the Conestoga, but they're actually a guest of Creswell, because you generously have allocated certain streets that belong to the city to use. And also written in there is that there's a payback for that kind of thank you. They owe 2 hours of community service to Creswell. And so I've organized every now and then we'll go out and clean up the cigarettes in the pocket park or around, or businesses, just as a little bit of payback. So, any other question? I know it's not supposed to be a question and answer, but any other questions?
Councilor
Yes.
Holt. Councilor Holt.
Are you operating these activities under a legal entity?
No.
Okay.
No, we don't have a corporation or an LLC or anything like that.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All of you for speaking, and thank you for coming tonight, joining us. So council, before us, we have ordinance number 563. And I'm just going to open it up for council comments about the ordinance we have before us. Yes,
Questions about it? I have a brief recess.
a brief recess.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Why don't you go? We won't do any action before you return. Does any other councilor need a recess? Okay. Councilor, did you?
I could use it,
Yes.
but I'll wait for her to come back.
Okay, then, because I think we
It's
have.
really awkward to have to, do this in this environment. We should just plan a break.
Let's just plan a break.
Yes.
Thank you for speaking.
Well, what you might want to do is ask them here. I don't know if they have to time it needs to be Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I was wondering if there was a chance that I could speak.
Go back and grab a form on the back table. I'll get one for you.
A what?
A form.
Oh, form.
Awesome, thank you so much. Great, thank you. Like, I can do that while I'm waiting.
Can I make you said it's the Festival of Trees on the
Creswell
7th?
Festival of Trees on the 7th from 11 till 6.
Okay.
It's going to be at the old schoolhouse. Awesome. I could do something, explain what it is and why it is.
Awesome, okay, I'm gonna go speak to my editor tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely, thank you so much.
Transportation.
That one's very well.
I think the safety.
They are so unbelievable, aren't they?
They vary.
Here, is it Pamela?
There's so many.
Okay.
It's hard
Well, I think
Well, I needed help because there's some stuff I'm working. Yeah, if I can.
They call me at work.
Yeah, I love them.
I can do that.
I have a favor. And I grew up talking to people, so I'd have
Yes, sir.
Things going as good as possible. There's like actual roof, I'm not stopping and falling.
So you're saying, we couldn't have any discussion
So,
That's my understanding, but I know you have, but I just, you know. Right.
Then it's amendment.
Floor opens for discussion after the second motion. So you're opening it twice, which there's nothing wrong with that. I suppose.
all the
Yeah.
systems and process.
The amendment as well.
During that discussion time,
During the
yes,
discussion.
yes, yes.
Family run this shit.
I was fascinated
Yes,
by the
and then you have to, yes, exactly, exactly, yes.
As the book says.
No, if you're worried about me doing that, I'm not planning to,
Well, that's what we're gonna talk about Thursday.
As many amendments.
It is, but it is.
Yes, I know, nobody wants that, yes. Yeah.
I'll tell you later.
Well, keep it in mind, well, anyway, keep it in mind that this is the first time we're seeing it in its long form. Yes.
Did you get from Patty?
Yes, they did.
They'll have meetings usually.
Sorry, I want to go get the podium turning on, so that way it works.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Second Wednesday.
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely.
I would,
Put that away, so it doesn't keep popping up. Show me.
I would have to talk to my new supervisor.
Yeah, well, my family knows.
Don't worry, I'm not peeking at it. It's not interesting. It's not interesting.
Our whole lane actors.
Well,
The archive.
I don't know. It was presented as a resolution. So I don't know. That's Michelle that read it.
Vicente. Rubio.
If I could demystify
Just before they
I'm
closed
gonna
the
go
door,
on, whether we go into there.
got rid of all of the stuff here and
Every once in a while I try to, send him something, like
I tried to send him, I figured that.
So basically,
I would have loved to have seen this a long time ago.
yeah, I saw it when,
I know.
Cam had at the park. He was gonna bring copies a while back, and we did, and now we have
He did a meditation class.
As we see, this ordinance has gone into effect, so it's already, you just heard that.
Yeah. Some of them is good.
Well, it's interesting. A user.
I would have stopped.
I find it more interesting if we're doing these operations without a legal business entity or a nonprofit.
Building?
No, any of that. Having a contract with citizens and stuff, like, this is a very interesting thing to me.
Well, I don't think they need one.
I don't know.
Basically, is this just as a good faith piece of paper? It's like making a contract with your kid to not to use their cell phone in school.
That's true, that's true.
Good luck in, enforcing it, or,
I mean, with them voting, and if something were to happen with it, the
Yeah.
liability comes back to them. And if it's they're the ones who have to claim that the public works rate paid fee. They own it, not the unhoused person. Which is one reason I would ask for responsibility. To give them the right to vote on the thing, which is an interesting twist.
It doesn't change my opinion on our ordinance, but I do appreciate the effort.
Okay, are we all back?
the burden of this does not fall on the city.
Probably have questions, more questions.
We don't know. But basically, you just want to, if you want to make to amend this, we just press one municipal code, ordinance number 563. Yeah.
I'll say, she said I could. Look, I'm gonna look it up. I'll show you which one.
The new code relating to storage of vehicles and property on city streets.
Is that better to read like this?
I doubt who's been.
It would be an ordinance to adopt. It would be an ordinance to adopt.
We're gonna have to get some small ones pretty soon.
Well, this is already an ordinance, we're amending it, aren't we?
Sounds good.
This is a new ordinance that amends the previous one.
Oh, you mean?
It's a new ordinance that amends.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Something here and
We are all back and resuming our meeting. So we are on ordinance number 563. Thank you, everyone who spoke to us from the public. And so we're going to proceed, first of all, by opening the floor and seeing if there is a motion from the council on this proposed ordinance, and then if there's a second, and then if so, then we will proceed as a council to discuss it. If there are amendments to be offered up, those will come at that time. Amendments must be seconded. If it is seconded, then we will vote on the amendment, and then we will continue to move. And as our little book here states, ordinances or whatever can be amended as long as the council has patience to continue amending. So that's kind of the fine-tuning process. So I'm opening the floor and entertaining a motion on ordinance number 563.
I'm trying to find that.
51.
If there is no motion, then
I'm
the
gonna
ordinance...
make one when I find the language.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do that, and I don't know.
All right. So I think it has to be read twice.
You need to raise your hand.
Sorry.
Counselor Holt, read twice by title.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 563, an ordinance updating the Creswell Municipal Code relating to storage of vehicles and property on city streets. Do I read the whole motion again?
Twice by title.
Or just the title twice? Ordinance number 563, an ordinance updating the Creswell Municipal Code relating to storage of vehicles and property on city streets.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second from Counselor Smith. Now the floor is open for discussion of ordinance number 563. Counselor Holt.
I have at least one question, but to write off, I just need a clarifying question. It says that, I thought when we were in the work session that we had discussed working with the 72 hours. Like, did we reduce the hours to 48 when we would give notice, and then, or did anything change in that? And I'm just confused.
Are you asking me?
Yes, Manager
Anyone?
Amber.
I believe that it was changed to the 42 with an understanding that they would be getting a notice, and then once they got the notice, they had another 24 hours, so that took it up there. Because what is happening now is they're getting an extra day because of the way that the 24 and 72 and 48 all work together.
So is the language in here fixing that? Because it says, no, let me see.
And tell us where you're at in the ordinance when.
Well, I'm looking at specifically where it's just it's page 2 of the ordinance, the top, under section B.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing anywhere really in this document that makes that timing clear. But I may just have missed it.
It creates the 72 hours hard stop. Before, the 72 hours was a time when they would be getting there.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So 72 hours, it's done.
Okay, that makes sense. And then I do have one other clarifying question. Under this ordinance, in the way that it is written, do the Conestoga huts qualify as a rec vehicle? Because this ordinance is written for 2 different types of vehicles, and that's it.
I do believe it, if you look at the definition, number 2, a recreational vehicle as used in this section means a vehicle with or without motive power that is designed for human occupancy and to be used temporarily for recreational, seasonal, or emergency purposes.
And so you believe that it would qualify as a rec vehicle based on that definition?
Well, if it was going to be used temporarily for recreational, seasonal, or emergency purposes, yes. If it's being used as housing, probably not.
So then it would not be legal to be on the street otherwise, is that correct?
It says under B, prohibited storage. No person may store or permit to be stored on a street or public property a vehicle for more than 30 days or a recreational vehicle for more than 72 hours. It does not address.
That's my concern.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then in regards to that, if it were considered a recreational vehicle, then it would also be subject to valid registration being displayed.
I would think so, except that the state doesn't require registration on small trailers, and these are within that parameter. I think Sergeant Speldrich has a few
Are
things.
small trailers allowed to park on public right-of-way?
I'm going to turn this over to Sergeant Speldrich.
All the research that was done at the beginning when these were first introduced indicated that these are similar to like a homemade camp trailer. So you've probably seen homemade utility trailers that people have used that are street legal. These kind of fall under the homemade camp trailer idea. It's still a homemade trailer. It doesn't fall under registration requirements due to the parameters of this trailer, but it still is a homemade camp trailer, basically.
So with that definition, we don't address them at all in this ordinance. So I think I would like to make a motion that we take this back to another work session and talk about it again.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second on adopting the ordinance. Now we have an additional motion to remove this.
What would the proper way to do that,
That's the question.
Michelle? I suppose,
Because you're not amending the original motion.
right.
Andrew Amber.
I believe the motion that she made is to bring this to a work session for further work. So you need a second, and you need to vote on that motion.
Thank you.
Counselor Smith.
So we can't just adopt this with some amendment to the language, because I did request wheeled wagons and/or mobile or temporary structure to be added. It was right in my proposal.
I understand that. We could. I think that the answer to your question is we could vote no. We could vote no on my motion and do that. But are we going to need Ross?
I mean, I thought I already presented that to him, and we already paid for this to be done.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
I would second the motion that this goes to a work session for further discussion and cleanup and making sure that when it comes back, it's exactly as we want it to come back. So now we're going to discuss that motion to bring it back to a work session. And since I made the second, I will go ahead and speak first to that. As I read it over, I actually intended to amend it. So I'm going to pass it out just so you can see what my thoughts were, since I'm now saying, yeah, we should bring it back to a work session. So, first thing I note is that in the ordinance, the original ordinance 557, this is not section 1, it's section 3. So I think we need clarification if this is to amend the original ordinance. In the original ordinance, this is number section 3, if you look at the original one. Second, tying in really with Councilor Holt, what you're saying, I don't see how this specifically addresses Conestoga huts. And so one suggestion would be under A, under number 1, when it lists personal property, and it says other than a recreational vehicle, I would suggest we could say other than a recreational vehicle, comma, vehicle, or Conestoga hut, so it's named. Under 2, leave that as is, and then add a number 3 item, which would be a new definition, and it would be the term Conestoga huts. And that definition would be, as used in this section, means, and a word added into this would be a wheeled. I believe, Councilor Smith, that's something you know, that these are wheeled, non-motorized shelter designed for human occupancy. That's the same wording that we use under item number 2, recreational vehicles, that they're for human occupancy. Section B, I would leave the same, prohibited. Section C, I would suggest failure to move a vehicle, recreational vehicle, personal property / or Conestoga hut. So it's clearly added into that under section C. Under section D, to add when a vehicle, recreational vehicle, or Conestoga hut is found, and then continue the same language until the end where it again refers to vehicle, recreational, or Conestoga hut, so that we're clearly delineating, we're talking about something that does exist and what it is, and we've defined it. Section E would be the same. Section F, I would recommend adding a new section. Due to the nature of Conestoga huts, to be towed with a bicycle, because as I've seen, they all have tongues on them, one personal bicycle may be stored directly behind a Conestoga hut, so long as it does not extend into the road or sidewalk. Bicycles properly parked behind the Conestoga hut shall not be cited nor removed from the city. This has been an ongoing issue with bicycles, and while I agree they should not be in the right-of-way, the huts by nature are designed to be towed. And so every 3 days or whatever we decide, someone either has to go out and physically pick it up, and as I understand, some of the individuals who are living in them, physically this is a great challenge for them to pick it up by hand and move it. They're designed to be moved by a wheeled vehicle, as they are wheeled vehicles, and that wheeled vehicle is a bicycle. So I think it's reasonable, and as I thought through this, the term that has come back to us over and over again is whatever we come up with has to be objectively reasonable, remember that phrase, to all parties. So if it's a hut with wheels that's supposed to be moved by a vehicle with wheels, a bicycle, it seems to me that attached to that hut can be one personal bicycle parked directly behind it, out of the right-of-way, and that's what they use to move it. And personally, I think we need to stop moving bicycles, but we need to make it very clear, and I appreciate Ed and Bill, that bicycle is parked directly behind it, neither to the left nor to the right, and it's used for the purpose, it's their transportation during the week, but when it's time to move it, that's how they move it. The remainder of the ordinance I thought was acceptable to me. So if we do vote to move it forward, these would be the things I would be bringing forward for discussion. So now the floor is open for discussion of the motion. Councilor Holt.
I can't discuss what you just brought forward?
No, we're discussing the motion, which was to move this to the work session. So we're having discussion of that, yes. So you can.
So
yes.
you just got to tell us all of your ideas outside of the work session. Do I get to speak to them?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't think baking in Conestoga huts into our city ordinance does anybody good service in the city of Creswell. I think that you're opening the door for creating special laws for a certain subset of people. And I'm not defining that subset of people as being bad or good. I'm just saying you're defining a law or an ordinance that's supposed to be shared by the entire community and creating a special one for one set of people. And to me, that's not okay. Just based on, for instance, section F, adding the new section, I'm opposed to that unless we're going to create that rule for every single resident of Creswell as well. To be able to park their bike behind their car that's parked on the road, I don't care what the reason is for needing it. We have to have consistent laws that apply consistently to all members of our community. Because I will just say this, I would love to see the basketball hoops on the road so our kids can play in the summer. And so while I did motion for this to go to work session again, because I'm disappointed in the fact that I don't think that our ordinance actually addresses the problem that brought us back to the table, I'm not interested in changing it. I'm interested in shoring it up, not making it easier. And so that's just my thought on it. Because if we pass it the way that it stands right now, it doesn't do a thing. So that's just my thoughts.
Okay. Other councilors who would like to speak to this? Councilor Smith.
Well, since I brought it up and it was my proposal here, I'm disappointed that in my proposal that Ross had, he did not structure the language in multiple sections that were just wheeled wagons or mobile or temporary structures, which would refer to a lot of other potential vehicles or movable wagons or whatever it may be down the line, and that kind of covers a broad basis for the future. So I agree, we probably need to go back to work session, but I'd like to get this shored up and taken care of for the dime that we've already spent on it. This shouldn't cost us anything. This was in my proposal that I'd given to Ross and everyone else here. So I don't see why we should go back and get it fixed.
Okay, other councilors? We're discussing moving this to the work session and comments about that. Councilor Kent.
If we move it to a work session, could we get Russ here again? I'm curious if there was a reason why that language wasn't in there or what happened with it.
We can invite Ross to come back to the work session.
Yeah, he's your employee.
Very good, thank you. Thank you. Other councilors who'd like to speak to the motion? Kelly, Councilor Clark.
Just a process question. So if we do move it back to the work session, that doesn't mean that, that means that this can then come back after we have talked it through during a work session. That means that it could come back to our December council meeting for a vote.
Yes.
Great.
We would, at that work session, decide, again, give the input to our attorney, have him draft it up again and come back to us in December as an ordinance, and we would go through the same process as tonight.
Sorry, just
Yes.
one more question. And if it's not voted on tonight, then what that means is that our ordinance stands as it currently is for the next month. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, we're going to need to take another brief recess until our councilor returns so that we can have a vote. Although we'll give just a second to see if she's on her way back.
Can I ask a question while we're waiting?
Yes.
Michelle, I think that you might be able to answer this probably. If we vote on this and we decide to take it to work session, what happens to that original motion?
I'm sitting here wondering that myself.
Does it stay open or does it have to be dealt with? I think the original person that made it can.
Yeah, the original person can withdraw it. That there is a case for that, yeah. I would have to research that. Yeah, not coming to mind.
Any other comments on the motion to move it to the next work session? If not, then we're going to proceed to vote. All those in favor of moving this ordinance to the next work session in November, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. So I'm going to look to the council. Council, is there consensus that Councilor Holt can remove her original motion?
I don't even think we need it. I think I can just motion to rescind it.
We're going to let you do that.
Okay. I motion to rescind my previous motion to adopt ordinance number 563, an ordinance updating the Creswell Municipal Code relating to storage of vehicles and property on city streets.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. So any discussion of rescinding the original motion? All right, let's proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All right, we've put this also on the agenda for October. So Manager Amber, help me with process. If there are specific things Counselor Smith or other counselors want to make sure that Ross is appraised of before he comes to that meeting, what's the best way to do that? Send those to you?
You can send them directly to Ross. I will tell Ross that he needs to watch tonight's city council meeting to pick up whatever. Otherwise, it's your direction.
Okay, so, if you have specific things that you want Ross to hear from tonight's meeting, you can send those directly to Ross. We will return this to the work session. Okay. All right, we are moving now to the back page was the resolution number 2024-27, a resolution adopting annexation of city water tank reservoir property in city limits. Curtis is not here. Manager Amber, is that your report?
I'll say about this is that, currently we're looking to do some work bringing them up into seismic safety levels. Additionally, we're looking at connecting them to the street in a different way. And because of those two activities, Curtis thought it would be a good thing if they were inside the city limits. They are within our urban growth boundary, and so he's recommending that you annex them tonight so that we don't have to follow county permitting. We can do it ourselves. Is that right, Cliff? Do you have anything to add?
That's correct. Yeah, we noticed that the two lots that the reservoirs are sitting on are within the county, and when we started going through the permitting process, we noticed that we would have to go through the county, and we decided it would be better to bring that in-house so that we can control basically our own destiny as we work on them going forward, so we can permit them ourselves.
Okay. Questions for Manager Amber or Cliff about this resolution? So I have a question. Annexation, then we would process the annexation ourselves, or does the county have to be involved in that since they're currently in the county?
It's the same process we always use for annexation. So yeah, we would process it and it would be recorded.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for our staff? Councilor Osborne?
It only affects these two particular parcels.
Correct.
Councilor Clark?
In the future, would these parcels ever be used for any other purpose than?
I can't say forever, but I don't think there's any reason that we would use them for anything else.
Councilor Castillo?
This is a great idea. I'm wondering, why haven't we done this before?
Didn't need to.
Great idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, I'm entertaining a motion on resolution 2024-27. Councilor Kent.
I move that the City Council approve Resolution 2024-27 to initiate the annexation of certain territories at Assessor's Map 19-03-14-33 tax lots 2700 and 2701.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second from Councilor Smith. Any further discussion? Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We move to item E, conflict of interest disclosure. Manager Amberg.
Thank you, Mayor. The city had a recent training. We had people come down from the ethics board, and they provided us a pretty detailed training on conflict of interest. And they revealed that, and so I followed up with them. I gave them a call, and I said, you know, we have a project going on 2nd Street. I live on 2nd Street. Is there an issue with that? And they said, well, you need to declare your conflict of interest in writing, and then the city council will need to address it. And I said, well, how can they address it? And they said, well, they have a variety of things they could do, including doing nothing. So potential conflict of interest on 2nd Street, which should not prevent me from participating in working on it. And I think I have an actual conflict of interest should the city council choose to put in an LID. And so I would recuse myself from any kind of activity that had to do with anything in setting the rate. I don't set the LID rate. The LID rate is set by an engineer. It is recommended to city council and approved. I have very little hands-on in that process. Cliff also, is involved. Jim would be involved. It's up for your consideration.
Okay, so I want to read briefly from our charter, not from our charter, our governing rules, page 6, item 5.12, conflicts of interest. This specifically relates to councilor, but it relates as well to an employee. In every case in which a councilor is faced with a potential conflict of interest or an actual conflict of interest, the nature of the conflict must be disclosed during the public meeting and recorded in the minutes. If an actual conflict of interest exists, the council member, after disclosing the nature of the conflict, shall remove themselves from the council table and refrain from participation in both the discussion and the vote on the issue. It goes on to talk about actual conflicts, their private pecuniary, either benefit or detriment potentials. An actual is something that would, while a potential is something that could have an impact either to the benefit or the detriment. So we have the options before us. Michelle has declared. So council, it's up to us to discuss. Let's first discuss the potential conflict of interest, which is that the creating a brand new street, sidewalks, curb gutters, could impact either positively or negatively the property value of Manager Amberg's home. Potential. And so we need to decide how we want to respond to that as a council. Manager Amberg?
I would just like to say that I think you should take into consideration the fact that I have supervisory responsibilities in this area, and removing me from the project, such an important project for our community, impacts me being a city manager. So I just want to say that.
And when the councilor declares a potential, because we have had this in the not recent past, but we have had in the past with the potential, that councilor remains on the dais, participates in everything and the vote because it's a potential. So that's kind of our history of dealing with potential. So I would recommend myself that with the potential on the South 2nd Street going in, the Manager Amber would remain in her position and would continue to be the supervisor for the staff with the project, knowing that she has a potential conflict of interest. Floor is open for council's thoughts. Councilor Osborne.
I agree. If it's the potential that she stays on, she would recluse herself if there was a vote that when it was beyond potential conflict, when it was actual conflict of interest.
Councilor Castillo?
Well, it's the decision-making process that you would be removing yourself from, and I think you've already said you're not involved in the LID process, right? That's up to the engineers?
I do not vote.
Yes, you don't,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
yeah, obviously you don't
And
vote.
That's what your rules address somebody who is a voting member of this body. I don't vote. I don't even think when it comes to the LID that I will have influence. It's a straightforward, how much does it cost per linear foot? That gets applied, it comes to the city council, you decide whether you want to charge it or not. I would not be part of that discussion. I don't think I should be asked to step away from the podium or from the dais. But, I can certainly sit here and be quiet, and Jim and the engineer and Cliff do their job, and I will have a lot of confidence that they will do it correctly.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm just trying to mesh the advice that their city attorney is giving, which he says, it seems to me that the best solution would be to simply remove Michelle from the decision-making process on the Second Street project and let Jim and Cliff take charge in consultation with Steve Ward, which is basically kind of what you're saying. Decision-making process, fulfilling the administrative part, like cutting a check or whatever, that wouldn't be, there would be no problem. I don't see anything with that, but it sounds like it's good advice right here. By letting Cliff take charge, that's not necessarily removing you from your managerial duties.
Actually, I'm a little bit concerned that there's going to be a lawsuit associated with this, and I don't think that it's fair to saddle Cliff with dealing with the lawsuit on his own. I think that there's a lot that I can bring to the table in a lawsuit. And also, I have responsibilities for supervising Cliff. I have responsibilities for overseeing our budget. I have responsibilities in all of those areas, in contracts and all of that. And so I don't think there's any, if you say I have no decision-making authority, you are tying my hands as a city manager. If you're saying that what I recommend is that there's a potential conflict of interest in designing and putting the street in, that's a potential conflict of interest, but I get to remain at the dais, and I get to remain as a supervisor to the people that I'm supposed to supervise, and I can still do all my activities as a city manager. And when it comes to the LID, you could say there's a direct conflict of interest, but there's no decision authority. So you can again say, I can stay at the dais and I can listen, but you will be saying that I have no authority to make any decision, or even, I would be comfortable saying I can't even participate in the discussion. I just think for my protection, that's a good place to be. I think it meets the idea behind conflict of interest, while it still preserves my role as city manager.
Yeah, and I certainly don't mean to imply that I would want to have anything to do with removing your role from city manager in this project. Just trying to.
Thank you.
Councilor Holt.
My concern is always public perception. And I appreciate that you're doing this, that you're taking the steps to do your due diligence and make sure that we're handling this correctly, as well as you. So I appreciate that. So my question would be, if I'm understanding this correctly, it sounds like what we could do is ask you to not participate in the discussions, but still allow you to oversee the employees implementing this. Is that a correct way to say that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Smith.
I don't directly see a big benefit from Michelle, for her personally, and I think she has a voice as a citizen as well, so you got to compartmentalize both of those. But I agree that for now, I don't see a huge problem with it. I think if she just stays out of the discussions for now, it's pretty simple. We don't have to do any crazy gymnast moves to try and stop her from doing her job, and we need her on this job to finish it. And I think we all knew there was a lawsuit coming after the last meeting with this, so I think she needs to be involved in this as much as possible.
Councillor Clark.
I would just say that I'm in concurrence with what has been expressed by both Councilors Holt and Councilor Smith. I think that we are benefited as a city and in our processes by having Manager Amber continue in her role and continue to be a supervisor. And I think when it comes to the discussion, right, and then I think that I think exactly what it is that we're talking about. I think that we're addressing both the potential and the actual conflict of interest.
Okay. Any other comments from councilors? So I'm going to recommend, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, just one last one. Thank you for your transparency on this. That's it.
I'm going to recommend, I don't believe this is something we have to vote on, but I'm going to recommend a language and then ask for consensus. This is to do with the potential conflict of interest. Manager Amber has declared a potential conflict of interest with her residence on South 2nd Street in terms of possible increase or decrease of property value on her home. The council acknowledges that potential conflict of interest, but affirms that she will continue in her role as city manager overseeing the project. Did you get all that, Caitlin?
And she'll recuse herself from?
No, that's on the
Oh, okay.
actual. That'll be next.
Oh, okay, okay.
So can you read that back to us?
All right, so it's recommended
Do you have
that,
your microphone on?
yes,
Okay.
is that, okay. So recommended potential conflict with Manager Amberg with the residents on South 2nd Street with potential, but affirms to stay on as city manager for the project, but at that point.
Go ahead and start again.
So it's the recommend potential.
Council acknowledges that Manager Amber has declared a potential conflict of interest due to her residence on South 2nd Street and the possibility of either increased or decreased valuation of her property, period. The council acknowledges this declaration and has decided that Manager Amber will continue in her role as city manager overseeing the project. Close enough for the second time around?
Yes.
Okay, council, you have, so I would be asking for consensus of the council to that response from the council to Manager Amber's declaration. Councilor Holt.
I just have a question. Should this have been done months ago?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was afraid of. But there's really, I mean, by doing it now, are we protecting everyone at this table?
Yes, I didn't realize until we had the training that we had to do this in writing. The training that we received from our city attorney never indicated that. Also, I didn't think that that the potential conflict was something that needed attention because I don't have a voting role with the city council. I have been very aware, though, that the LID is a potential. A long time ago, when we started talking about this, I did declare that I lived on 2nd Street. So sort of did it the right way.
I remember asking you about it too specifically just a couple meetings ago. So.
Yeah. So, you know, I thought I did, but this is better.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that we're good if we just take care of it now.
Yeah, because I have not taken any actions one way or another. We haven't started the project.
Okay.
All we've done is look at some maps. I have had nothing to do with the maps. I have not tried to cajole staff into giving me any sort of benefit on my property.
Fair.
So,
thank you. Yeah, appreciate that.
So is there consensus on the potential conflict of interest? Okay, now I'm going to try a statement on the actual. Here we go. Manager Amberg has disclosed to the City Council that she has an actual conflict of interest due to her residence on South 2nd Street, and that she would be paying an LID at such time that it is created and approved by the City Council. This LID would negatively affect her finances, period. Council has determined that Manager Amber will recuse herself from any discussion of the LID when the matter comes before the city, period. All right, you're doing well. You can also go back and recreate this from the recording if you need to. Go ahead and read it back to us as well as you've got it.
Manager Amberg has disclosed she has an actual conflict due to residence on South 2nd. Due to her paying LID, this LID would negatively affect her financially. Manager Amberg will recluse herself herself when there is any discussion on the LID.
And so the word is recuse, R-E-C-U-S-E.
Yes.
So council, does that reflect our decision on that item? Okay, so I believe you have declared and we've disposed.
Thank you.
How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Done.
And we do appreciate, Manager Amber, your bringing this to our attention once you had your training. So, all right, with that, we are moving into 2 executive sessions. Item number 7. The City Council will now be entering into executive session, which is held pursuant to ORS 192.660 2I, to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the Chief Executive Officer of any public body, a public officer, employee, or staff member who does not request an open hearing. At the conclusion of this executive session, we will then move into a second executive session. The executive session is held, the second one, pursuant to ORS 192.6602F to discuss matters related to the consideration of information or records that are exempt from public disclosure under Oregon law. For both executive sessions, members of the media are allowed to attend. All of the members of the audience are asked to leave the room. You don't have to leave this room because we will be going next door. So with that, we are recessed for the 2 executive sessions. We will return after they are both completed and come back to our agenda item number 9. Well, just take them on.
They're gay and are too
Well, I
lazy.
guess you're coming.
Turned off automatically.
Yeah, she's good.
I'm checking right now.
You talking about in the summer?
Cool. Well, I'm gonna take a.
Well, not that they can hear in there.
I don't.
I know.
Okay, well, nice to meet you. I'm sure I will see you around. And any one of us could be there. Absolutely. A picture of that stuff. If I can remember when the work session is, I will be there.
Okay.
Yep, yours at the end of the table.
There was one extra there. The script you gave me.
I appreciate what you guys have done.
Just read them.
They should be on both of the packets. Are they not?
Well, you gave, oh, you took all the packets in there.
Oh.
And mine, and you took my script over those two packets, right?
These are scripts. These are the agendas.
I've stolen all that. I can't tell you how many pence I've given in sleeping bags.
Okay, perfect. Sorry.
Personal items.
Well, I've given, fixed and given 5 bicycles to the.
You tracked it down.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank
I
you.
will. I won't do anything.
When you lock it up, people come by and see.
Enterprise zone is pretty big.
It's seen as a way of just harassing.
Turned off automatically. I'm checking right now.
You talking about in the summer?
Cool.
Well, not that they can hear. Well, not that they can hear.
Okay, well, nice to meet you. I'm sure I will see you around. And any one of us could be there. I know.
I think just because. I know. Don't worry. So I'll take out my long pants and start layering and, yeah, that whole thing. No, it's not gonna be fun. Nope. I think the only thing that's keeping me going is like Christmas time, Thanksgiving, all of that, so. And it's already November, I guess we should. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, oh my gosh.
My script over the two packets, right?
Oh, yeah, from Southern Creswell. My daughter, when she was a senior, so I was 17, 18, she graduated from Marist. Oh, I graduated from Marist too, actually. Yeah, yeah. So she was doing her Girl Scout Go. Wow. And a couple of friends and myself helped with the sorority to decorate Festival of Trees. Oh my gosh. Do you know what chapter it was by chance? Like at U of O? No, this.
You know, we used to have, what's that thing, I can't remember.
Community sharing.
Community sharing. Used to have an
necessarily,
office here, community center.
College,
Became-
fraternity, sorority, it's
And that got shut down. I don't know.
girls that got together. So Penny Anderson is one. She's the one who would still do the festival. Gotcha. The first couple of years, so she wanted to do the Festival of Trees. And so we did it here locally. We did it in the gym with Craft Fair the first year. Gotcha, okay. We ended up with, we had 8 trees. Okay. So we decorate them, I own the ornaments, and then we bid them right there at silent auction. Yeah. And then they have to pick them up at the end of the night.
Gotcha.
And then we raise money, so the first 2 years, we raised money. Patty was her counselor, because I couldn't do this since I was her mother, but, of the black at least $1,000. Because right now, we'll be buying ornaments and themed everything for next year. So we already have, this year's already set aside from last year.
Yeah.
So every year we've done it. And, like I said, we usually get 1,000. So the first 2 years was the library, third year was the Grange, and then we hooked up with, because it's just Penny and I.
Right.
And we're just people that just like to do it. We like to decorate, we like to do that kind of stuff.
For sure.
And so we hooked up with Creswell First.
Nice.
Because it's a nonprofit. So then the businesses, so we go and we usually get 11 businesses to donate 100 dollars. Last year we raised it to 125. That pays for the trees, for the decorations, for the advertising. I bought it. This year, it'll go up over the street. It'll be here tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, very cool.
And so just to get the word out, to get people coming through, unfortunately. Last year it was really bad. Because right in front, we were at the, it's not the Eastern Star, it was part of the Eastern Star, right out here. And I mean, we have over $100 in decorations, and we barely pay for this.
Well, you know, the chemistry.
So this year we're, because we are.
Concept. Yeah. They actually did a presentation to the.
Showcase the schoolhouse, but it'll also keep the tradition going.
For sure.
So hopefully
The
we'll.
possibility of doing.
Yeah. And can I take down your contact info by chance as well? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
But we just can't do it the second week.
Yeah.
It's too commercially valuable.
It's too late.
But there might be. You think so? I mean, he wants to turn it into,
Well, no, like I said,
no, I'm talking about
I
tiny
about that
homes
tomorrow and
as
just
opposed to
kind of
apartment.
from there, because that sounds
And I was
like
talking
something
to
I would
Seth
absolutely
about
love
it.
to
Seth
cover
says,
too.
well, you know, he's not
We
always all
have,
about the dollar.
pictures
He
from
might
this
actually
year.
consider
perfect,
a
yeah.
tiny home village over there.
Usually we do.
Thank you so much.
Tiny homes are, you're building.
No, it could be temporary though. We're waiting for something else to come. That's resort residential zone. That's big tax income for the city.
Yeah, I got that part, because it's semi-commercial.
Kids can decorate
Yeah,
their
there's more value.
coloring sheets.
My places are now
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Trees, we usually have 6 fresh trees. We have a tree farm here.
Well, one of
Yes.
And then we have 3 or 4 artificial trees this year, and then some tabletop trees.
This is the plan. This is what's up.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Fun, and then we'll have spice cider cup.
I was gonna say the letters to Santa are absolutely amazing. My oldest has done it, and the response that comes back,
Oh, that's so
it's pretty
cute.
amazing. She was super excited.
Yeah. Oh my
I was
gosh,
just, I
that's
was like,
awesome.
I have to mention that one
Yeah.
because that was a blast.
Awesome, yeah. Especially because I think like just coming off of like such a chaotic season and everything, people are looking for some positivity and things to celebrate, and I just like human interest stories are always my favorite thing to cover. So yeah, that's awesome.
And it's so much fun.
Yeah.
People really just stop by, have a good time.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting because this year we won't have anything to pull from. I'm gonna talk to the Boy Scouts and see.
Okay.
So there's between the schoolhouse and the neighbor, whether or not they could set up and sell trees that day.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So, and then,
Housing for good, or whatever they call it.
I'm gonna talk to see
Yeah,
if
they end up getting housing
some
for
food
trucks.
trucks will come.
Yeah.
It's such a
So
hard
there's
year,
this
but
congestion.
to get housing, you gotta go to
Across
these.
the
The whole
street.
thing, yeah.
So, totally.
Yeah. Well, that's so exciting. Thank you for letting me know.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And we are
Awesome.
having an open house at the airport.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll give Michelle an invitation, I'll get one to you.
Okay, great.
I have no idea, I don't think
I can make a note of that
And
as
that one
well.
is November 23rd.
Okay,
It's a
perfect.
Saturday. And so I'm attempting, my tentative schedule right now is to close the runway for a half hour so people can walk. Try and have some golf carts there so people can walk at once. It's a $3 million project. Like,
Wow, yeah.
then we'll have goodies and we'll have, history of the airport. Because it's been there since 1962, so there's a lot of history people don't really understand about it, not counting all the grants that we've gotten and all the improvements we've done. And then the wastewater treatment system that's up there.
Oh, you're gonna go down.
So my plan is to have ribbon cutting down at the
Christmas
pool.
trees
start.
Okay.
And cut there and then cut up.
And I'm gonna do some
So
that are not.
showcase, those are our two
It was
biggest
there
projects
three
we've done
of us
so
that
far.
did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what time is that going to be at?
11 to 1.
11 to 1. Perfect.
So,
Okay, I'll make a note of that
I'm
as
just-
well. Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome.
Doing the fake trees. And I'm selling them over at the.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you heard it.
What, you're doing fake trees?
Yes. You're doing Christmas trees?
We're doing Festival of Trees, but we're doing it the week early.
Well, I'm gonna do the fake trees that are just the small ones. Just like we, decorated and I'll sell them hopefully during the lighting
See,
ceremony.
the 14th is just too late.
Yeah, it is.
It's good to see you. So we're gonna, Patty, yeah, Patty. We're gonna rope you in too. So Penny and I are gonna do our own Festival of Trees
Okay, where are you gonna do it?
at the schoolhouse
Oh, that's a good place.
on the 7th from 11 to 6,
So when do they do the lighting?
the following weekend.
The following weekend, okay. So
10 days before Christmas, that's way too short.
Oh, I know.
Yes. Well, my hope is that there will be people that want to buy a tree for the, nursing home, or people that are shut in, or just can't, just something small.
Yeah, and I think we have some tabletops that we're gonna be selling, and then we've got some 4-foot artificial, and then I think we have 6 live.
Well,
And
I'll be at the
then letters to
Grange.
Santa, and then hopefully cookies again.
Doing wreaths?
No, the wreaths, we just never had a lot of luck with
Right.
people buying them.
Yeah.
I'm really into them now. I make sure I have one that I've made for each holiday now on my door,
Yeah.
because I don't have enough decorations. That's
Yeah,
a
sure.
whole nother ball of wax. And then, I don't know, I'm gonna talk to the Boy Scouts to see if they'll want to sell trees that weekend.
Yeah?
So, and I may
At
talk
the
to Heidi.
schoolhouse?
It won't stop. Dawn, do you know how to stop it?
Dawn, any clue?
YouTube?
Well,
I have
anyways,
no idea.
I'll talk to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, come sit with us if you want. Stay warm. The place is really.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it is. Yeah.
So adorable.
It's supposed to stop, but for a
And
while
it's-
they're in there. I know
It's
that
like
he
a small
paused,
version of the community
like,
center.
stream, which I have the
You
cameras
know,
on.
you
but
want
it's
to have
still
a
going.
celebration of life, you can do it
Nice.
there. Just
It's
anything.
warm, it's inviting.
Yes.
Just to let everybody know.
Parking is terrible.
Yes. Well, and hopefully we'll have everybody park in the community center parking.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, no.
yeah.
Yeah, those are all of, that's the work
Keep
session.
in the loop.
And I
Yeah,
showed-
please.
I tried on
Let
Instagram.
me know if you need any help, because we're not going to be doing it that day, so.
Yeah.
I
Well, I've
guess
been
I'll just leave it
buying
as it goes and I'll cut out
a
when
few
he cuts
trees,
off. And then there's like a
$2.
time frame on it, yeah.
Decorating them.
So.
It's nothing special, it's just something to bring
I think
us.
that's a great
All right.
idea. Even if they just buy the tree and tell you, okay, go give it to
Yes,
someone in a nursing home.
yes.
That's a good, that actually is a good piece that we should look at adding, so that you'll have a table of trees for sale, and that you pay for them and they go directly to someone in need.
Well, so, my granddaughter's just going to be moving into her first apartment just before Christmas. It's my way of giving her, you don't have to go out and buy a big old tree. Here, it brings joy.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a cow.
You're doing a cow?
A cow one, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Michelle bought some ornaments, so I'm gonna do the Highland cows. We'll have a smaller Highland cow one.
Oh, and don't forget the ducks.
Yep.
Okay, well, it's, yeah, just keep me in the loop and, just talk to me.
Yeah, well, I know where you're at.
Do you? I moved
Well, yeah, you're over,
by the park,
yeah.
which
There's so much damage, and people go over there and bang and kids. I think, I'm sure because of the police, but it's like, that's my part too.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's not like when we grew up. Go, go, I don't want to see you till the streetlights come on.
That was right. But it was different, but Creswell is such a giving community. That's why I don't understand this. The caring, giving, and then you want to take away. And it's dignity.
Yep.
Anyways, I go home, go to bed.
Okay. Can't stop.
See you.
Nope, they're still going, which I mean, it's scheduled. And I don't want to mess with it too much because I noticed when I was starting it, it kept popping on the TV in there. And so I don't want to cause a thing.
Pause recording.
Yeah, I hit that, I hit the stop button. It wasn't doing anything. I even exited it to see if that would shut it down, but that didn't do anything.
It's really just cameras though.
Yeah. This is the audio part. Here's the cameras. There's the audio, and then this is, and that's what, when I hit these, that turns the TVs on in here, so I don't wanna do that. Michelle said I can go home, so I'm gonna pick up. I'm gonna leave these, because they're gonna have to come back out here and do the end of it, so I'll leave those and I'll just grab them in the morning, but I'm gonna grab everything else.
Okay. Well, do not stay home.
Okay.
I was just gonna stay for you.
Oh, thank you.
That's pretty good. So did you have a good time down south?
Oh, sure.
From, what do you call it? Either grand or great. I'll go again. Thursday night. Didn't know until I got that's possible right now.
Isn't that fun? You don't think about it?
Well, it's early.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's shut this door so that they all
There's
have
the
to
one
come in
side.
that way.
Heard them in the one direction.
Just added security.
I'll grab anything back here in the morning. I'll grab anything back there in the morning and just break it down. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Have a good one.
Look forward to talking to you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good night.
Yeah, I'll be back here more. Let's see.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
So everybody knows the front doors are locked, so if you guys go out, they will be locked, but that way that nobody else can come up without having cameras on, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't actually get to leave right away.
You again?
With me.
You missed everyone?
So much. I had to come say hi, of course.
You must have turned the heat off, huh, Caitlin?
It should still be on. Is it getting cold?
Kind of feels like maybe it's all the people out of the room.
Right, the body heat.
Yeah.
I know, it's one of those where it's like, oh, okay. In our system, it's like in different zones. So you have to figure out what zone the room you're in is in, because it doesn't make sense. I've tried. I'm like, oh, okay.